They said I was unconscious. They said I couldn't hear. But I did. I heard everything. The machines beeped steadily beside me, each sound marking time I wasn't supposed to feel. My chest rose and fell with the help of a ventilator, but inside, my heart was screaming. Because in that sterile ICU room, while I lay on life support with tubes in my throat, the woman I loved leaned casually against the wall and laughed. "We've set the date," Ella said. My girlfriend, my world, my reason for risking my life in the first place. She wasn't talking to me. She was talking to Christopher. Christopher, my boss, my mentor, the man I trusted with my career, my ideas, even my insecurities. He was standing right beside her, smiling like he owned everything in the room, including her. "That's fast," he chuckled. "What if Samuel wakes up?" Ella shrugged. "He won't, and even if he does, he won't be the same. The doctor said it's a miracle he's still breathing. Honestly?" She laughed softly, almost affectionately. "He wouldn't want me to wait forever, right?" That's when it hit me. The accident. The car. The night I pushed her out of the way without thinking. She was supposed to be the one in this bed, but I was the one with broken bones and a shredded lung, barely clinging to life. And now she was marrying someone else. Not just someone. Him. A slow burning started in my chest, not from pain, but from the weight of betrayal. I tried to move a finger, a hand, anything, but my body was a prison. Then she said it. The words that shattered what was left of me. "I loved Samuel," she whispered, "but he's part of a chapter that ended the moment that car hit him. This is my new life, and I'm not going to waste it waiting for someone who might never come back." I wanted to scream, to tear off every wire, every tube, but all I could do was listen. She kissed Christopher on the cheek. "Let's go. I've spent enough time here pretending." And just like that, they left. I lay there, eyes closed, breathing, through machines, heart still beating, but never more dead inside. Would you like me to start chapter 1 now, or do you want changes in the tone or pacing first? My name is Samuel Lin, 32 years old, senior project lead at Apex Enterprises. The kind of man who learned early in life that loyalty, once broken, is rarely repaired. But I hadn't always believed that. There was a time I was softer. A time I believed in second chances and forever promises. That version of me, the one who smiled easily and trusted without question, started to vanish the day I met Ella Monroe. We met 4 years ago at a tech summit in Boston. She wasn't the loudest person in the room, but she was the one everyone watched, poised, articulate, with just enough mystery in her eyes to keep you curious. She worked in public relations, but I knew from the first conversation that she could have succeeded in anything. Ella didn't ask for attention. She commanded it, and somehow out of all the people in that grand hotel ballroom, she chose me. I wasn't used to being the one noticed. I was a planner, analytical, the man behind the curtain. But when Ella laughed at one of my dry, borderline terrible jokes, it felt like I'd stumbled into the light for the first time. We started talking that night and never stopped. Within a few months, we were living together. Within a year, she was the person I thought I'd marry. She was everything I thought I needed. Charming in front of clients. Thoughtful at home. She left me notes in my laptop bag, remembered how I took my coffee, knew when to drag me away from work and make me watch something meaningless just to unwind. There were warning signs, of course. Little moments where her mask slipped, where her interest in someone else lingered a second too long, where her phone would buzz late at night and she'd smile into it like it carried secrets just for her. But I ignored those signs, told myself everyone had flaws, that relationships weren't meant to be perfect, that love was about choosing someone every day, even when they didn't make it easy, and I did choose her, every day. Even on the day that almost ended my life. It was raining. The kind of relentless downpour that makes the road shimmer like glass. We were on our way to dinner, her favorite Thai place across town. She was complaining about Work, about her new supervisor, about how he didn't respect her input. I listened, nodding, keeping my eyes on the road. Then, in one horrible moment, a car lost control ahead of us. I remember the flash of headlights, the screeching tires, the sickening twist of metal. I don't remember thinking, only acting. I yanked the wheel, turned the car just enough so she wouldn't take the brunt of it. The next thing I knew, pain exploded through my chest, and everything went black. They said I was in a coma for 10 days, that I might not wake up, that even if I did, I might not be the same. But I did wake up, not all at once. First came the sounds, the beeping machines, footsteps, voices that blurred into each other. Then came the weight, the knowledge that my body didn't respond, that I couldn't move, couldn't speak, and worst of all, couldn't escape. I don't know how long she waited to visit, but I do know the first thing she said when she thought I couldn't hear. "He was always so dependable," Ella said softly, standing at the foot of my hospital bed. "But dependable doesn't excite me anymore." Her words cut deeper than any wound I'd sustained. She spoke to the man beside her, my boss, Christopher Hale, as if I were nothing more than a chapter she had closed. Christopher didn't even flinch. He placed a comforting hand on her back, and she leaned into it as if it belonged there. I wanted to believe I was hallucinating, that my brain, still groggy from trauma, was distorting reality, but it wasn't a dream. It was real. The woman I had risked everything for, the woman I would have died for, was announcing her engagement to someone else, while I still fought for every breath. Christopher wasn't just anyone. He was the person who had mentored me through the most critical years of my career. He'd invited me to private meetings with the CEO, given me access to high-stakes clients, and toasted my promotions with pride. And now he stood in the hospital room that smelled of antiseptic and betrayal with the woman who once told me I was her home. I didn't know what hurt more, Ella's betrayal or Christopher's quiet smile as he slipped his hand into hers. That night, a nurse named Rachel came in to check on me. As she adjusted the IV drip, she smiled kindly. "They've been coming every day," she said, not knowing the damage those words did. "She must really care about you." I wanted to scream, to tell her it was all a lie, that the woman she thought was devoted had already moved on while I was still trapped inside my own body. But I stayed silent, because I had no choice, because the Samuel she thought was sleeping was already wide awake and dying on the inside. The day I was moved from the ICU to a private room, the doctors called it progress. They told me I had been through hell and come back, that my vitals were stabilizing, that soon I'd be able to speak again. They smiled at me like I was a miracle, but I didn't feel like one, because now I was no longer unconscious. Now I had to live with everything I remembered. Ella hadn't come. Not once since the first week. Not since the day she told Christopher she was moving on. I waited. I counted every hour. Told myself maybe she was busy. Maybe the guilt was eating at her. But days passed. The door never opened. The nurse brought in fresh flowers, but there was no card. Just a silent reminder that anyone could look loving from the outside. I stared at the ceiling for hours, my body slowly remembering how to feel. I could blink, twitch my fingers, murmur sounds that barely resembled words. But all of that was drowned by one question circling in my mind like poison. Why him? Why Christopher? He was everything I wasn't. Louder, flashier, ruthless in ways I never could be. The kind of man who called vulnerability a liability. I'd seen him fire an intern for being 5 minutes late, charm his way through boardrooms, and change the trajectory of careers with a single email, including mine, and I had respected him, which made it worse. When my voice finally came back, hoarse and broken, the first name I whispered wasn't Ella's. It was Elizabeth. The nurse blinked at me. "Elizabeth?" I nodded slowly. "Call her." She came the next morning. I'd almost forgotten what she looked like in person. Her hair was shorter now, a little messier. There were faint lines beneath her eyes, like she hadn't slept in weeks. But her presence was the first warmth I had felt in days. "Samuel," she breathed, stepping toward me. "I didn't know if I should come. I thought maybe I was the last person you'd want to see." I tried to speak, but emotion caught in my throat. Instead, I reached for her hand. She held it instantly. "I know," she said softly. "I heard about Ella." So she knew. I shouldn't have been surprised. Elizabeth always knew things before anyone else did. She had always been that quiet shadow watching from the sidelines, never interfering, but never blind. "She's engaged," I rasped. Elizabeth nodded once. "I know. To Christopher." The name tasted like ash in my mouth. "She told people you would have wanted her to move on," Elizabeth continued, her voice carefully controlled. "That she stayed by your side, but you were already gone." I let out a hollow laugh. "I heard her, in the ICU. She said, I was just dependable, not exciting." Elizabeth flinched. She looked down at our joined hands. "You were always too good to her." "No," I whispered. "I was just blind." The truth began to rise in my chest. Slow, steady, undeniable. I had loved a version of Ella that never really existed, a curated illusion, a performance, and now, stripped of everything, I saw what I hadn't before. I remembered something else, I said slowly. "Right before I blacked out, you were there, before the accident. The last message I sent, it was to you." Elizabeth froze. "I wanted to talk," I added, "about something important." Her lips parted and then she looked away. "I didn't reply," she whispered. "I couldn't. I knew you were planning something for Ella. Everyone did. I thought maybe it was a goodbye." It wasn't. Silence lingered between us, thick with all the things we hadn't said. The times I'd ignored her lingering gaze, the way she always left the room too quickly when Ella arrived, the pain she swallowed every time I looked right past her. "I should have seen it," I murmured. "You never wanted to tell me, did you?" Elizabeth shook her head. "You were in love, and I respected that, even if it killed me." I closed my eyes. "You know what hurts most?" I whispered. "It's not the betrayal, not even the lies. It's realizing that I gave everything to someone who couldn't even wait until I healed." Elizabeth's voice cracked. "You gave everything to someone who never deserved you." That night, I asked to be alone. Not because I didn't want Elizabeth near, but because I needed to face the truth without anyone softening it for me. I stared at the ceiling until dawn. The betrayal was complete. But the pain, it was just beginning. The silence in the hospital room was deafening. I stared at the same crack in the ceiling for hours, as if the plaster could offer answers the people around me wouldn't. My body was healing, yes, but every second stretched longer than the last. I didn't need painkillers for the bruises anymore. I needed something to dull the storm in my chest. I kept wondering, how did I not see it? Every memory with Ella now played differently in my mind. Her late-night absences, the way she'd silence her phone the moment I walked in, the times she'd brush off affection with a practiced smile. I used to call her distant. I thought she was stressed from work. I thought love meant patience. But love, it doesn't hide behind excuses. It doesn't disappear the moment someone else enters the room. The betrayal wasn't a knife to the chest. It was a slow, careful carve, deep and deliberate. I felt shame more than anger, embarrassment. I had made her my entire world, built my life around her like she was a home, and now I was standing in the rubble with nothing but the sound of her laughter in my head. Laughter that wasn't meant for me anymore. Worse still, I couldn't decide what hurt more. Ella's abandonment, or Christopher's betrayal. He had known me at my best and my worst. He toasted my promotions, pushed me through company ranks, even gave a speech at my birthday. He once called me the most loyal man he'd ever worked with. Now he stood beside the woman I loved, ready to marry her, without even blinking. At what he'd done, what kind of man smiles in your face while stealing your future? I clenched my fists beneath the hospital sheets until my arms trembled. I wanted to rip out the IV, to storm out, broken ribs and all, just to scream at them both. But the truth was, I was tired. Tired of pretending I was strong. Tired of holding back the pain. And then there was Elizabeth, the one constant in this chaos. Every day she came to see me. She brought books, soft meals, even silence when I needed it most. She didn't ask questions. She didn't press for details. But her presence was steady, gentle. She looked at me like I still mattered. I didn't know what to do with that. With her, there were moments, quiet ones, when I'd catch her watching me when she thought I was asleep. Her eyes weren't just kind. They were filled with something deeper, something I hadn't dared to name. I started wondering, had I been wrong about everything? Had I loved the wrong person all along? The idea terrified me. Because if that was true, then I had wasted years chasing a dream, while the one who truly saw me was standing in the background, all along. One night, I finally asked her, voice barely a whisper, "Why are you still here?" Elizabeth blinked. "Do you want me to leave?" "No," I said quickly. I don't understand." She hesitated, then walked to my side. "Because I care about you, Samuel. Because even after everything, you still don't deserve to be alone." That single sentence shattered something inside me. I looked at her, not just saw her, really looked, and realized how tired she was, how much she had been holding back for my sake, how much she had probably always held back. Didn't respond right away. Couldn't. My throat tightened and my voice caught in it. But I think she understood. Because she didn't wait for me to say anything. She just sat beside me, her hand brushing mine. Steady. Warm. After she left that night, I stared at the clock, until morning, watching the seconds tick forward, terrified of what came next. This wasn't just about betrayal anymore, it was about what came after. What do you do when the person you lived for is no longer part of your life? Who do you become when everything that defined you gets stripped away? I didn't have those answers yet, but for the first time in weeks, I wanted to find out. I wasn't healed, not yet. But something inside me had shifted. I no longer wanted Ella back. Now I just wanted to find myself again. The day I was discharged from the hospital, the sky was overcast, the kind of gray that settles over a city like a warning. Elizabeth was waiting near the entrance with her car, bundled in a light jacket, eyes flickering between the building and her phone. The moment she saw me being wheeled out, she stood, up quickly, trying to hide the relief on her face. She helped me into the passenger seat, her touch gentle but firm. The silence in the car wasn't awkward. It was something else. Familiar. Safe. "I brought you back to your place," she said, as we pulled into the underground parking. "I didn't think you'd want to go back to her apartment." She was right. I had given up the lease on my own place months ago when Ella asked me to move in. The key was still on my chain, though. I hadn't had the strength to throw it away. Elizabeth helped me up the elevator, unlocked the door with the spare key I'd forgotten she even had, and guided me into the space that suddenly felt like it belonged to a stranger. Everything was clean. Sheets replaced, curtains drawn. There were fresh groceries in the fridge and a note on the table in her handwriting. "You're still here." That's enough for now. I didn't realize I was holding my breath until she spoke again. "I've been coming here," she said softly. "Taking care of things. I didn't want you coming home to reminders of her." I turned to her. Something unspoken caught in my throat. "Elizabeth." But before I could finish, the doorbell rang. My stomach dropped. No one knew I was being released today. Elizabeth moved to the door, hesitated, then slowly opened it. It was Christopher. He looked just as polished as ever, suit sharp, posture relaxed, that same easy smile on his face, the one that had once meant respect but now looked like a mask hiding rot. "I heard you were out," he said. "Thought I'd come say welcome back." Elizabeth didn't invite him in. I stood behind her, leaning slightly on the wall for balance. The moment our eyes met, I saw it. Something flicker behind his gaze. Guilt, maybe. Or arrogance, I couldn't tell. "What do you want?" I asked. He tilted his head. "Ella's gone." The words hit harder than I expected. Gone where? She resigned. Took a consulting offer overseas. Left 2 days ago. I didn't speak. Not at first. "She didn't tell you?" he asked. "That's surprising. I thought she might have changed her mind." Elizabeth crossed her arms. "If you're here to confuse him, don't bother." He ignored her and looked at me. "You should know something. Ella never loved me." I frowned. Could have fooled me. "She used me to get to you, to punish you for making her feel unimportant. She thought if she married me, it would force your hand." I stared at him. "You're lying." He shrugged. "Believe what you want. But the night you were moved out of the ICU, she told me she couldn't go through with it. Said she still dreamed about you. Said she hated herself for it." I gritted my teeth. "She betrayed me while I was unconscious." "I didn't say she didn't," he replied. "But she did it because she couldn't stand the idea of being second in your life. Even though she always was." The silence between us stretched. He finally added, "I'm leaving the company. Transferring to the West Coast office, you'll be getting my position." Then he smiled again. "Congratulations." And just like that, he turned and walked away. The door clicked shut, and Elizabeth turned toward me. I expected her to speak, to comfort me or tell me he was wrong. Instead, her voice was quiet. "Careful. Is that what you want?" she asked. "Her gone. Him gone. Your job back. Everything reset like none of this happened?" I looked at her. "No," I said slowly. "That's not what I want. Because the truth was, that version of my life was already dead, and I didn't want to resurrect it." The gala was loud, glittering, and filled with too many people I used to know. The same executives who once called me a rising star, the same clients who clapped for Ella and me as if we were the golden couple of the firm. Now I stood among them with a cane in one hand, a glass of water in the other, and Elizabeth by my side. I didn't want to come, but Elizabeth convinced me. "This isn't about them," she said earlier that evening, helping adjust my tie. "It's about you. You survived. You didn't just survive, Samuel. You came back stronger. Let them see that." I hadn't realized how much I needed to hear those words until they left her mouth. So I went. The crowd parted as I entered. Heads turned. The whispers started. Some nodded politely. Others looked away, uncertain what to say. But no one asked. The question that hung in the air, "Where's Ella?" The host made a speech. Champagne was passed around. And through all of it, Elizabeth stayed beside me, her presence grounding, her smile small but steady. I didn't notice the second twist in the night until the very moment it hit me. A familiar voice spoke behind me. I didn't even have to turn to know. "Samuel." I froze. Then slowly I turned. Ella stood a few feet away, her beige satin dress flowing like a ghost from a life I thought I'd buried. She looked thinner, paler, her eyes darker than I remembered. But her posture was still. Regal, still proud. The crowd faded. She stepped closer. "I didn't know you'd be here. I wasn't planning to be," I said. Her eyes shifted briefly to Elizabeth, then returned to me. "You look good." I gave a small nod. "I feel alive. So yes, better than before." She took another half step forward. "Can we talk?" Elizabeth didn't say a word. She just gently let go of my arm and moved to the side. Not far, just enough to give us space, but not enough to leave me alone. Ella's gaze flicked down to my cane. Does it still hurt? Less than it did, I replied. She hesitated, then laughed softly. You always were tougher than you looked. I didn't respond. Ella looked around as if searching for words. Then she dropped her voice. I didn't leave because I didn't care. I left because I didn't know how to stay after what I did. Kept my eyes on hers. You mean getting engaged to my boss while I was on life support? Her breath caught. I panicked. No, I said calmly. You calculated. She flinched. That's not fair. I took a step forward, my cane tapping softly against the marble floor. What's not fair is risking my life for someone who couldn't wait until I woke up to replace me. I thought you'd never. Wake up, she whispered. And you thought that made it okay to give my place to him? I asked. You didn't even wait until the machines were off. I made a mistake. No, I said, firmer now. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is saying the wrong name once in a fight. You didn't make a mistake, Ella. You made a choice. She was quiet. Her eyes glistened with something. Shame, maybe. Regret. Or both. I came back because I needed to see you, she said finally. I needed to say, I'm sorry, and I miss you. I blinked slowly. You miss the version of me who didn't know what you were capable of. That man doesn't exist anymore. Her lips trembled. Samuel, I was scared. You have no idea what it felt like to see you lying there like that, hooked up to machines, doctors saying you might never come back. You want to know what scared me? I cut in. Lying in that bed, hearing you call me a placeholder while I couldn't move a finger, hearing you laugh with him like I was already dead. That scared me more than dying ever did. Tears slipped down her cheeks now, silently, just like before. I thought if I married him I'd feel less empty, she said, but all I felt was guilt. And now you're here, hoping to undo something that already destroyed what we had. I'm here to ask if there's any part of you that still feels something for me. There it was, the real reason she returned. Looked at her for a long time, at the woman I once loved, the woman I defended, the woman I would have married, and all I felt was nothing. No anger, no longing, no ache, just silence. I loved you, I said. I gave you everything. And in the moment I needed you most, you gave me away. Ella's hand came up, fingers trembling. Please. I shook my head. You said you wanted someone exciting. Someone who made you feel something. I hope you find that. Her lips parted to say something more, but I turned away. And there, waiting at a distance with quiet strength in her posture, was Elizabeth, the woman who stayed, the woman who never once asked for anything, but gave everything she could. I walked towards her. She looked up, and for a second her expression faltered. I didn't speak. I just reached out and took her hand. Her eyes widened slightly like she didn't dare believe it. Come with me, I whispered. She didn't ask where. She just followed. Behind me, I heard Ella's breath hitch, but I didn't look back because this was the moment, the final break, the severing of the last string that tied me to the version of myself that needed Ella's approval to feel worthy. And it didn't hurt the way I thought it would. The pain was gone. What remained was peace. A stillness that settled deep in my chest. As I stepped out of the hall, Elizabeth's hand in mine, and left the past behind, once and for all. It had been 6 months since the gala. 6 months since I left Ella standing in that shimmering ballroom, crying in silence behind mascaraed eyes, too late to fix what she had shattered. Since then, life had moved forward, quietly, steadily, without chaos. And for once, I welcomed the peace. Elizabeth and I hadn't rushed anything. We didn't need to. There was no declaration, no dramatic confessions. Just small gestures that slowly rebuilt the trust I'd lost in the wreckage of my past. She'd moved into my apartment a few weeks ago. Not because we planned it, but because it happened naturally. One evening at a time, one drawer at a time, until I realized her presence had filled every empty space I hadn't even noticed was hollow. The first time I saw her standing in the kitchen barefoot, drinking coffee in my oversized shirt, I realized I didn't feel haunted anymore. The shadows Ella left behind were gone. I didn't talk about Ella much, and Elizabeth never asked. But some truths demand to be faced, even when you've already moved on. The company offered me Christopher's former position 2 months after. He resigned. I accepted it, not because I wanted revenge, but because I deserved it. He left behind chaos, multiple accounts mismanaged, quiet complaints buried under charm, and at the center of it all, one final surprise. The board found discrepancies in his financial records, large ones, client gifts, unapproved transactions, redacted travel expenses. It was all there, buried in spreadsheets and falsified statements. I had access to it all. Now, and I knew what to do. I compiled a complete report, signed and dated, no emotion. Just facts. I didn't send it to the board. I sent it to the legal department, anonymous. Within 2 weeks, Christopher's name was plastered across every major corporate headline. Former Apex VP under investigation for embezzlement. Ella's name never came up, but I knew the scandal followed her too. She'd bet on the wrong man. Again. One morning, a letter came in the mail. No return address, just my name written in that familiar looping script. I opened it. Inside was a single sheet. You win. No apology, no explanation. Just those 2 words. I folded it once and dropped it into the shredder. This wasn't about winning. It never had been. It was about closure. And finally, I had it. 2 weeks later, I received a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Samuel, it's me. Ella. Her voice was thin, tired, quieter than I remembered. I'm leaving the country for good this time. I thought, I should say goodbye properly. Maybe in another life, things would have been different. Maybe I would have loved you the right way. Or maybe you were always meant to love someone else. She paused. I saw your engagement announcement. You looked happy. She looked happy. I hope you really are. Another pause. And Samuel, I never said thank you for saving my life that night. I never said sorry either. Not properly. I don't expect forgiveness. But I needed you to hear it. Goodbye. I deleted the message without saving it. There were no maybes in this life. There were only choices, and hers had been clear. The engagement party Elizabeth and I hosted was small, intimate. Just close friends, family, and a few colleagues who'd stood by me when everything fell apart. The air was filled with laughter, soft music, and the gentle clink of glasses. Nothing extravagant, nothing performative, just joy. Elizabeth wore a soft lavender dress. Her hair curled loosely down her back. And when she laughed, God, when she laughed, it felt like sunlight pouring into a room that had once been locked and forgotten. Near the end of the evening, I took her hand and pulled her to the side. I need to show you something, I said. She tilted her head. Now? I nodded. We drove in silence for 20 minutes, out of the city, past the noise, to the edge of the river. The same river. It was quiet now. Gentle waves lapping against the rocks, the moonlight reflecting over the surface, like silver silk. Elizabeth looked at me, confused. Why here? I took a deep breath. This is where I almost died. Her eyes softened, but she didn't speak. I stood right here, I said, stepping forward. And I remember thinking, if I had to do it all over again, I'd still save her? I thought that meant love, that sacrifice equaled worth, but I was wrong. She waited. I saved someone who let me drown. But now, I want to start my life where it almost ended, with someone who would never let me sink in the first place. I turned to her. I bought this land, quiet, private. I'm building something. Here. A home. For us. She stared at me, lips parted in silent shock. You want to build our home here? I nodded. Because this place doesn't mean pain anymore. Not to me. It means survival. It means clarity. It means you. Tears shimmered. In her eyes, she took a shaky breath and smiled. You're insane. I know. I love you for it. The wind picked up gently. She leaned into me. I wrapped my arms around her, feeling her heartbeat steady against my chest. Behind us, the city remained loud, full of lights and mistakes we'd left behind. But here was peace. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't surviving. I was living. We stood together on the banks of the same river that once held my death. And now, it was the foundation of my forever.